one presentation where we will ask you to have your phones out, because we are going to do some interactive stuff. One thing is with what is called Poll Everywhere. So if you do get your phones out and your QR scanner, or usually your camera will detect a QR code, if you scan that in, it'll take, you can go right to a website called Poll Everywhere that will automatically load up some questions for you when we get to those slides. It asks for your name. You don't have to put in your name. You can just click skip that. But then once we get to some slides where we want you to interact, the question will pop up and you just choose the option for yourself.
Yeah, so glad you're all here. Thank you for coming.
My name is Bruce Roadside. This is Uriah Cohen. We're both the educational technology and innovation coaches in the secondary school. We've all come here today to talk about digital media, especially with the middle years students. Okay, many of you have varying age children at home. This is going to more revolve around the middle years, but maybe some a little bit in the primary and as they get older and more into the teen years. Was everyone able to get onto Poll Everything there? Get set up? Like I said, we're going to ask you to interact a little bit more a little later on. What I want you to do is first just take a few seconds and think about how many devices per person do you have at home? All right, think about how many devices do you have? How many phones, how many laptops, how many computers, how many smart TVs, how many iPads, watches? Think about that, and then just divide by the number of people in your house. Okay, everybody got a number in the mind? Okay, raise your hand if you have at least one device per person. I'm sure I should see all hands going up. Keep your hands up if you have at least two per person. Keep your hands up if you have at least three per person. Keep your hands up if you have at least four. Notice my hand is still up. How many have at least five? Okay, at least six. We're not trying to shame anybody here. Just to get you thinking about all the devices that you have in your home. Some are personal devices, one-on-one. Some are shared devices that everyone in the family can use. But it's just something to think about a little bit. Some statistics. Looking at the world population and the number of devices, it's interesting to see some of the growth over the last 15, 20 years. You can see down in 2003, it was 0.08 person per devices per person in the whole world. But that next jump from 2003 to 2010 is a huge jump to almost 2 per person. And think about that time period is when the iPhone came into play and the iPad, plus a lot of other types of personal devices. So that's where we really start to see that jump increase quite quickly, 2010 to 15, and then predicted 2020. All right, quick agenda for today. What we hope to get through with you is managing screen time, some ways that we can manage screen time, talk about cell phones a little bit. Big thing is social media, especially with the middle year students as they're becoming teenagers, online safety, and then communicating with your kids, having conversations with your kids about these things. What I want to do is just show you a quick little video, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. Just take a look at it and see what you notice about what some of these kids are saying. Oops. Is it not? Okay, we don't need to do that.
just showed how kids are using devices.
Yeah, they're talking about what devices they use, their media time, when they have media time, some of the different applications that they use. Please come sit down front. What are some of the apps that they're using, how it makes them feel, why do they use them? Okay, and these are all things that we're going to talk about in our presentation today as well. Okay.
Oh, technology.
Yep, so the next slide was, what I want you to do is just turn to someone next to you and think about or talk about what are some of your biggest concerns dealing with digital media and your kids right now. Just take 30 seconds. Talk to somebody next to you. All right, or behind you. Interact with somebody else. What are your big concerns about digital media and your kids? Okay, what are some of your concerns? Just pop out some answers to me. What are concerns that you have? Screen time. What else? That was the only thing? Yes?
Finding that balance, because I know that my son socializes online with his friends when they're gaming, which is fun, and I've listened to them, and they have a lot of fun, and they chat and they talk, they build stuff, but how do you find the balance between that and not being in the virtual world? Because it's not the gaming, it's the social connection that one has.
Yep. Okay, so finding that balance from screen time. What else? What are some other concerns? Yeah.
They're online all the time, but sometimes I wonder, do they really know how to tap into, like, using technology fully? Are they really capitalizing on it, or just sort of watching YouTubes all the time? Because there's so much possibility that I think they don't really know.
Okay, so what are they really doing online? I mean, are they tapping into those positive potentials that technology does give us?
Well, and or are they being exposed to, negative things and abuse?
Okay.
That's a key
Potential
concern.
dangers as well being online. What are they exposed to there and how do they react to that?
And the other thing is also just the eyes and the effect on,
Okay.
the sort of brain.
Physical effects to the body,
Privacy issue.
privacy issues.
I don't know what they're getting and what they're releasing.
Okay,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
Any other things concerns that popped up? Yep.
Sorry, I don't really understand.
Yep, it's new to all of us, right? It's new to the kids, it's new to us as adults. We didn't grow up with this stuff, right? So it's hard for us to kind of be in front of it a little bit to help our kids through this. And these are all things that we're going to talk about today. Someone did touch upon what are some of the strengths. Okay, we always hear about the negatives and the dangers for our kids, but technology does provide us with a lot of positives, right? There's a lot of good things about technology that we can utilize. And we need to be aware of those things as well and encourage our kids to do a lot of those positive things with their devices online too. And we'll get into some of that as well. Okay, but the big thing that we really want you to come away from this talk, and I really want it to be a talk between us, is how do we use media in balance as a family to find quality content, set expectations around healthy use to prevent the conflicts, right? Conflicts do happen, and raise media savvy consumers and creators. So that's our big goal for today, is when you walk out of here that hopefully you'll have some answers to some of these things, okay? All right, and really a big thing there is, as someone mentioned earlier, is it's about the balance, right? Finding that balance. Ask yourself, is my child physically healthy and sleeping enough, right? Looking at your child holistically. So are they getting enough sleep? Are they physically active? Are they connecting socially with family and friends? Are they engaged in achieving at school? Pursuing interests and hobbies? And then having fun and learning with their devices. Are they learning through their devices as well? Right? So if you look at your child holistically, and if these things are happening, then you can feel good. All right? But if these things aren't happening, that's when you need to start maybe taking a closer look and thinking about what's really going on that's preventing some of these things from happening. Just real quick, we're going to provide all these slides for you. We'll send a message out to all the attendees. You'll have access to all these slides, and the slides have links to resources and so forth. Okay? So don't worry. I see a lot of people taking pictures.
It's already up on our website, so if you're familiar with our website, this is already up there.
There's been some people that have come in. I'm just going to go back to that QR code real quick, just to get some people, just so we can get people interacting. Those of you that have come in recently, you can just scan this QR code. It's going to take you to a website called Poll Everywhere. We're going to have some interactive slides later on that's going to get you to answer some questions. So if you could just take a quick snap of that, get to the Poll Everywhere site. It asks you to put in a name. You don't have to put in a name. You can just skip that. But then once we get to the slide, the question will pop up and you'll be able to answer on your phone there as well. Okay? Everybody got that?
So that, that slide with the green background that was just up is a huge question. And so a couple things you can do to set yourself up for success. And this is for everyone in your family. It's just using media with your kid. Where we're hearing about privacy issues and what are they sharing, use tech with your child. And it's setting up real-time discussions where your child sees something. And we're talking about tweens and teens now. Teens are a little bit harder. Right? They don't want to share, and that's the age group. They are at this point where they want independence. They're testing out who they are, who they want to be. They might dress differently one day from the next day because they're trying something out. Maybe they're trying out a punk look one weekend. Or they're trying maybe a preppy look. Right? So they're testing out who they are, but it's always okay to ask your teen, hey, can we do something together online? Have family rules that you and your partner are both in alignment with. Is that a laptop that's not supposed to leave the living room? Because if mom lets the child leave the living room and dad comes home thinking, wait a minute, that's not supposed to leave the living room, you have to be on the same page with all the rules. You set expectations and rehearse. With tweens and teens, it's not a, hey, you should be sitting here with me all the time, but maybe give them that freedom and say, okay, you know that dinner, there's no device during dinner. But you get an hour later on after your homework. An hour online, that's great. Maybe it's an hour and a half. Whatever you decide is a healthy balance, because they are doing so much work. You're going to encourage creation. Coding. You just took a trip, maybe make a family video. Have them create something online. They show, and studies show, that when they are creative, and not just consumers, they're using technology in a meaningful way. We want to talk about some digital citizenship. We're going to get a little bit into what we're doing here at school. We're sharing all of our resources with you. You should have heard from your heads of year about some family tips and activities. Those are helpful. Maybe they just start you talking about digital citizenship and modeling behavior. Here at school, we're having talks about responsible use and no tech in the cafeteria, including you. No tech, modeling for kids, no tech, tech-free zones perhaps. Maybe you have that same thing over dinner. No tech between 7 and 9 when they might be doing homework. So what's really interesting is we're looking at students wanting independence, your kids trying different identities, and having acceptance from peers. That's no different from when you were a kid, except the landscape is a little bit different. They're using tech to do all of this. They're still communicating online. They're still looking for acceptance from peers online, and they're testing things out online. We talk about a little bit coming up about the troubles and having anonymity. But in a recent study, a child was quoted as saying, "Adults don't get it. They think I'm addicted to technology, but I'm not. I'm just addicted to my friends." Same thing, when I was a kid, I just wanted to hang out with my friends. Going to school was friend time. I loved it. Summer, it was camp, more friends. Family time, great, it was my cousins who are friends. Where when your child's growing up, you have training wheels on their bike, or you're crossing the street holding their hand. We stop doing that as much as they're in their tweens and teen years. But it's still also appropriate to ask, what are your friends doing online? What are some of the top sites you visit? And if they don't answer for what they do, ask what their friends do. They sometimes want to keep that private, not reveal too much, but ask what their friends are doing. Hey, what are the top 5 sites your friends visit? Some really good tips that are coming. And here we could see mobile phones. Can I just get a show of hands? How many of you have a child in their teens, or sorry, in years 7 through 9 with a phone? Almost all, not all. Okay, thank you. So that's interesting. For us, we always tell parents in the primary school, if you're going to start looking at getting a phone for your child, make sure that you talk about responsibility. If there's a social benefit to having this phone, does that outweigh the cost of them being social and maybe texting a little too much? Are they safe online, respectful? And these are all good check-ins for what they're doing with a phone, because now it's a mini computer in their pocket. And we see it here at school. They're putting them in their lockers for the most part. They take them right out at 3 o'clock. Unfettered access. So it really is having discussions with your child about what are they doing with their phone. Check if it's an iPhone, you can check their screen time. I have mine sending me notifications once a week, and just ask them, and have a talk about it. Not, I'm going to inspect it like you're coming in to chastise them, right? We don't want this. So it really is this nice check-in. When we look at what they're doing with phones, on average, the kid gets a phone at age 10, and 75%, which looked a little bit higher in this room, have phones between 12 and 17. What they're doing, boys are from gaming, girls are on social media. And it's even changing from Instagram to Snapchat. You might hear them call it IG instead of Instagram. Gram, Insta. They're using Snapchat a lot. But it's interesting to see here, girls are more social.
But that's not to say the gaming isn't social activity as well.
Correct.
While they're gaming, they are interacting with their friends along the game as well. They're all connected together through that game.
What do you think, and you can shout out, what do you think the most popular social media site is for kids, your age group? What do you think it is where they're chatting the most and socializing the most?
TikTok.
Shout it out.
TikTok.
Sorry?
TikTok.
TikTok? It's a good one. Yeah, it's a good one. It's not WhatsApp. It's not Instagram. It's not FaceTime, not Snapchat. I thought I heard someone say it before, but it was slow. Not Hangouts. YouTube. YouTube's the #1. They are chatting constantly on YouTube. Chatting. Able to communicate because they're leaving comments. Those comments are a form of chat. YouTube's the #1 social media site for this age group. We did a study here last year. Year 9 students, 132 of them. What's the most popular form or app that you're using to communicate? And this is just a word cloud where the most popular one shows up the largest. So here at our school, it's WhatsApp, YouTube, WeChat, Instagram, Pinterest. They're chatting on Pinterest and communicating via Pinterest through comments. Anyone familiar with Discord? It's growing. I wouldn't doubt if Discord is probably the 4th biggest in the next couple of years. Gaming site to chat, where they're typically tied to some game and they're chatting. So does.
So now you can take out your phones, and
Yeah.
if you go to that poll everywhere that you had linked to. Everything's not working.
Is a question showing up on your phone? Does it say, is it myth or fact? Great, fantastic. If you could answer that question, is social media having a negative impact, and does it alienate kids? Myth or fact? And just answer that one question.
I'm just wondering why that's not showing.
Yeah, it shows up for a second. Yeah, and it's like I see something. And you're in the Sec ICT. Yeah, me too. I'll refresh. Yep.
Right, I'll forget.
Okay. So, myth or fact? Right here we're showing, and we're going to show you results in just a second, but we found some studies, and please know that everything presented in this slide is based on research, including yours. And we're torn 50-50, right? 50% think it's a myth, oh, 48%.
Oh, we're back to 50%. Everybody's checking in. What's going back and forth?
So really
We're pretty
interesting.
split here.
Yeah, split. It's not going. There we go. So social media alienates kids, and it's actually a myth. 57% of all teens have made new friends online. 84% of boys who play games with friends feel more connected when they play online. Your kids are busy. When they leave here, they might have a CCA, then they might have another activity after school. Their only time to hang out with friends might be that hour that you give them online. It's precious to them, just like it was to you when you were a child. And 68% of teens, social media users, have had online friends support them through tough times. They reach out to their friends. They might not be able to here. Gosh, Bruce and I are really good friends, and when we talk, sometimes if it gets personal, I need to close the door. I need to find a place where I can close the door. You know, real estate in this school is tough. We don't have enough classrooms, and we don't have enough space sometimes to have private conversations. So it leads us into some red flags about social media.
So we showed the slide of all the apps that the kids are using, which ones are the most popular from last year, the year 9 students. It's a constantly moving target to know what the kids are really wanting, or what they're using. But you don't need to know exactly all the apps that they're using and what's good and what's bad, but it's good to know what might be some red flags with some of the apps. So when you're talking with your kids about what apps they're using or what their friends are using, you want to do a little research on your own, and we'll show you later how you can do some of that research. But things that you want to look for, those red flags with some of these apps. Is it age-appropriate content? You know, look at the age of your kid. You know the emotional age of your kid as well. Is it age-appropriate content that's on that app or that website or whatever? Are the public settings, default settings for public? So when they send an image, does it go out to the whole world? Or does it just go to friends in there that they've accepted in their app? Location tracking. Does it keep track of where you are all the time? This is important for you as individuals as well, but it's also super important for your kids. A lot of the apps are tracking you constantly. And sometimes it's part of the app. All right, so someone could see who's nearby. All right, so that's something you really want to check on. Is that something you're comfortable with, your child having an app that is tracking them and showing other people where they are? Okay. Real-time video streaming. So it's not giving them an option to delete it. All right, it's streaming live. So if they do make a mistake, it's gone out to people already. It's not giving them that buffer time to think, well, maybe I shouldn't really be sending this out, and they can hit delete or stop or whatever. Ads and in-app purchases. Are you using real money to buy more things within the app? To get further along in the game, do you need to buy more ammunition, or do you need to buy more gadgets to get you further in the game or the app? All right, so you need to be careful with access with that with kids. Temporary pics and videos. Snapchat supposedly disappears after a minute, all right? But nothing ever really disappears nowadays. It's very easy to capture an image once it's out there, all right? So you need to be very careful about that and talk with your kids about that, why it's important. Sub-party reporting tools. How easy is it to report bullying in an app? All right, is it very obvious? Is there a button that they can press and it reports something? Or is there no avenue of reporting? Anonymity, right? Can people hide behind a different persona, or are they completely anonymous on those apps? Right? These are kind of red flags as apps that might be a little dangerous. Cyberbullying and negative culture. Is it the culture of the website or the app to be making fun of other people? Okay, that's not a healthy situation, right? So these are some things when you're looking at what your kids are doing, looking at some of the apps. If you see some of these red flag things, then you really want to sit down and have conversations with your kids about using those apps. Why are they choosing to use them? What do they get out of it? How does it make them feel? Okay? How are their friends using it as well? Okay. One thing our kids have a tough time doing is really thinking before they post, right? They're not really thinking about their future selves. 10 years down the road, if I send this picture of me in my new workout clothes looking sexy, what effect is that going to have on me down the road? Or what if, think about some of the political leaders across the world right now that are 10 years ago, 15 years ago, they have a picture of themselves in a certain costume and the negative impact it's having on their careers now. Our kids aren't thinking about that, all right? But they need to start thinking about it because that's their reality. What they're posting now can come back against them 5 years down the road when they're applying for colleges. Most college admissions departments are checking the social media of their applicants. Yariv has a good friend who's an admissions counselor.
Columbia University. She can pick out your kid, accept or deny in under 3 minutes. She knows where to go. She knows how to find out. She finds anything embarrassing that could later embarrass Columbia, done. Doesn't care. IB doesn't care. Scores, doesn't care about any of it. You can look her up. Joanna Fishbein, she's the head person there. She will dismiss your kid she can figure it out in under 3 minutes. Doesn't care about anything else. So it gets to her when they see scores are good, good application, good reference letters, all that gets to her, 3 minutes she's done. She has to be quick, right? She finds one bad picture, done.
Yep, so it's one thing you hear talked about a lot is the digital footprint, right? Your kids need to be aware of their digital footprint. I heard another speaker last year change that narrative, and instead of a digital footprint, think about a digital tattoo. Footprints can go away. You walk in the sand, the water comes and washes it away. It's not permanent. You can scrub it off. But a tattoo, it's there for life unless you get laser surgery to get it removed. So I think talking with your kids about digital tattoos as opposed to digital footprints might start to make them think a little bit more about it, the permanence of things that you put up online. And one step in that right direction when you start thinking about digital tattoos and how to control that a little bit is looking at the privacy settings on your devices and within the apps themselves. All right? Walking through that with your kids. When they're setting up their apps, ask them, have you checked the privacy settings? Let's take a look at that together. What are they set for? What is the default setting for privacy? Most often it is everybody sees it. Right? But go in and change some of those settings with them. Do it with a couple of apps and then ask them to go check the rest of their apps and change those settings themselves. Right? Teach them how to do these things. Do it together.
I have a question.
Yep.
These are all really good stuff. Is the similar session being taught to the kids as well?
Yes, we're going to get into it a little bit later is the program that we're doing here with Digital Citizenship, Reception through 13 with the kids. So we're talking with you about it so that you can be reinforcing some of those things at home that we're talking about here at school as well. Okay, kind of a partnership. Now we do know that bullying does happen online. What you need to start thinking about is how do you talk with your kids about how to react to when they're uncomfortable with a situation online or when they might be bullied. Okay? Talking with them about how to report. Do they know how to report something on the app? You know, we talked a bit earlier about the red flags. Is it easy to report abuse online? And to let somebody else know. One thing we like to encourage is upstanding. If they notice someone else is being bullied, that they're an upstander and they kind of help that person that's being bullied along. So they stop bullying this other person or stand by that other person. Collect proof. Do they know how to collect proof? Whoops. Collect proof. Do they know how to collect proof of the bullying? Do they know how to do screenshots? Do you know how to do screenshots on your device? Okay, to collect that evidence and then take that evidence to an adult, whether it's a parent or a teacher or a trusted person that they have that they can go to talk about these things and report it. Getting others involved, that other adult that they trust. And kids are going to be kids. They're experimenting at this tween age. They might make bad decisions. They might be that one that does say something inappropriate to somebody else. And what needs to happen then is when it's found out that consequences are given to them. Right? They need to know that those actions cause consequences. It's not right. And that you need to then have some consequences for those actions. Just some statistics, not to scare you to death, but just to know that things are happening. Dr. Abram was here a couple of weeks ago. I'm sure some of you heard her talk, and she mentioned about sexting. How many of you have heard that term before? Okay, sexting. Just some quick statistics, 20 to 54% of teens have sent or posted sexy pictures of themselves. Most sexy pictures are sent to a significant other. But what happens after that significant other? Do they share it with any other people? Right, how many times does it then get shared beyond that? 51% of the girls say they felt pressure from a guy to send a sexy picture. Okay? So again, this is where having conversations with your kids starting at a younger age, where it is a little bit easier to talk about some of these things, and as they get older, you start to talk about more things. You can have those more comfortable situations. Yes, it is a little awkward, but it's important to talk with your kids about these things. 30 to 40% teens say nude photos are shared beyond the intended receiver. So you send it to one person, but what does that one person do? How many other people do they share that with? They may think, oh, this is my best friend, or this is my boyfriend, my love. They would never do that to me. Next week they break up, and he's mad because she broke up, and he says, well, I'll get back at her. I'll send this picture to a bunch of other people, and then it's to the whole school. Right? So they need to be aware of how those things happen. 9% of the kids receive unwanted online sexual solicitations. It's mostly, those solicitations come from images that are sexually provocative. All right? So sending that picture of yourself in a bathing suit, or just posting that, that's going to elicit some reaction from people. Right? Those are the ones that the predators are going to seek out.
So, and I really like how Bruce brought that up, because I think having even those conversations with your kid and letting them know, someone might ask you to send a picture. What picture might you send? And then what will you do? And pose this question, because this is a very common question, where someone sends a picture. So they might send a picture of them, just a selfie, they're at home, fully appropriate. But then the person on the other side says, that's it? Right? And so get them ready for that. Tell them, hey, someone might ask you one day, that's it? What are you going to do? It's best to hear that question first from you than from someone online in the moment. So good question, talking about what we're doing here at school and what you can do at home is regarding digital citizenship. So these are the 8 components of digital citizenship here at school. And we've invited you, we did this purposefully. We just completed one whole section of our lessons from digital citizenship from Common Sense Media. Everything here is research-based. We've included our own research into these slides too. And students are getting this, so we piggybacked right off of what we did with students, an email hopefully from heads of year to you, and now inviting you here. So we're doing this 3-pronged approach, and we'll do this again. So this is just part of our digital citizenship here at CIS. And you can see that these are really good solutions, but the best is just being informed. So coming today and being here. A big part of what we see happening online is disinhibition. It's not feeling like there's any consequence to it because I'm behind a keyboard. I mean, that's the biggest factor behind a lot of what's happening. An example of some of our lessons that we just completed, we just did this one, finding balance in our digital lives for years 7, 8, and 9. Coming up, we have these topics all throughout the year, so they're spread out over the course of the 10 months, and they're gonna get it every year. Different lessons for each year group. And just scaffold, so it leads them all the way up into what's more appropriate. Year 6 might have had something like talking about phishing scams, then year 9 is looking at what they're targeting from you specifically, right? That old phrase of, if something's for free, you are the product. What are they doing? What are they gaining from you? What are they learning from you? There's also some iffy content out there. We all have seen perhaps YouTube videos. We watch a real nice, cute one with our kid, and then it goes into something extremely inappropriate. And there's tons out there. Violence, sex, inappropriate images. When they're younger, we help them choose, but we know as tweens and teens, they're testing their own. So it's okay to check what they're doing. Again, ask, what is the last video you watched online? Can I see? Can we watch together? Or, what are your friends watching online? This slide, which is a clickable link, we'll just show a quick example of what you can do. So Common Sense Media. If I were here in Common Sense Media and I wanted to look up this movie, The Joker, what's it about? I see posters all over. It says here, parents say it's 14 plus, kids say 13 plus, of course. Common says since it's 16 plus. It's bleak, violent, powerful, not your typical comic book movie. What you need to know, The Joker is an intense, complex, powerful thriller. If you want to know what they're watching, and if they even just say, oh, I'm going to go watch The Joker with my friends, check it out here in Common Sense Media. You could do the same thing for Snapchat. So, someone said Snapchat. Oh, that's also 16 plus. That means none of your kids in 7 through 9 should be on it. What are parents saying about it? Continue reading. So you can just read a little bit. Common Sense Media is here to support you. We love Common Sense Media. Been using it for years. Very helpful to have. So that's Common Sense Media. Checking resources, so even if you just get that little bit of information from them. So here's another question, myth or truth? Parents spend less time on devices than kids. Just open up your phone, the question should pop up, and we'll start seeing it populated with your responses. If you came in late, you could always go to pollev.com, secondary ETT 704. No, for sure, yeah, we do. Right now, we're discussing them with heads of year. Yeah, that they have a program that they're running. So we are doing digital citizenship 7 through 13. Actually, it's a whole school initiative. It's happening, like Bruce said, reception through 13. It is the one thing combining our school, whole school, digital citizenship. It's happening straight through, where we're not PYP, but we are NYP and DP. We are a digital citizenship school. These lessons are happening. Yep. Correct. Correct. Bruce and I are going to Hangzhou on October 30th to November 1st to address just this. Yep.
But then the 11, 12, 13s will get.
Yep. Oh, 11, 12, 11 has already started this. 12s and 13s have it scheduled through their heads of year. Yeah, they're doing all 6 lessons.
Because you know what you mentioned about that would impact they're
Yep.
going to apply.
Yeah.
So,
For sure. Sure, yeah, all grade levels are discussing digital citizenship.
Yeah, this is happening reception through 13. This is our first time at CIS doing it, reception through 13. All right, so hey, the majority of you saying it is a myth. Parents spend 9 hours on screen time a day. Now that might be, because what they do here is, we know that there's not 9 hours in a day that you're in front of a screen, but if you're on your iPad and the smart TV's on, that counts. If you do that for an hour, that counts as 2 hours.
Because you got 2 devices, 2 screens you're interacting with at the same time.
Between 6 hours a day, teens 9 hours a day. And here's an interesting fact, it was just on CNN, also from Common Sense Media. 69% of parents check their devices hourly. We are poor models for our kids if we're trying to sit down and have a dinner for an hour and we're checking our devices. Be that role model for your child.
So yeah, talking about, you want to model the behavior you want to see in your kids. The kids are very perceptive. They are watching you like a hawk, whether you know or not, and they've been doing it since they were 6 months old. They're observing every single thing you do and say, and they're going to mirror that. I'm sure you've heard when they were infants, some of their first words were probably not so pleasant words that you might say a lot. Okay? So they are continuing to do that as they get older and older. They're going to see what you do and they're going to say that's perfectly acceptable behavior. So you need to model the behavior you want to see in your kids. Starting out with that modeling. All right? If you don't want them constantly looking at their phone while they're talking with somebody, you shouldn't be on your phone while you're trying to talk with them. Okay? Model the behavior that you want to see in your kids. If it becomes a problem, then maybe you step it up a little bit and you might monitor them a little bit. Now that doesn't mean to clamp down and restrict all access and have the authoritative monitoring, but to let them know, hey, let's take a look at what you're doing online. Show me this, show me that. Let's look through this together. All right? Monitoring some of the activities that they're doing, using the devices in a public space in the house. It's not being done behind closed doors in a bedroom. Okay? And then mediate. Again, if it's getting to a bad point, then you might need to step in a little bit and be a little bit more forceful. All right? But again, as they're getting older, They need to make some of those decisions themselves. Let them make some bad decisions sometimes, and then you can correct them. But don't be the one to step in automatically right away and control their behavior. Let them make decisions on their own, and then talk about some of those decisions, positive and negative. Talk about, we mentioned a little bit before, device-free zones, device-free time. Talk about, as a family, do we want to have device-free dinners? Hopefully this video will work. This is just a funny little video about...
It's so nice to all be sitting down together. Who can tell me something they did today?
I drew a horsey.
Good for you, son.
I started smoking.
I love you too, sweetheart.
We exotic bongs out of our minivan.
I got a tramp stamp. I'm getting implants. I'm dating your brother.
Uh-huh.
I'm cooking meth in the basement.
Great idea, kiddo. That's why you're so popular at school.
All right, so modeling the behavior we want to see in our kids. The one thing that we want to try to avoid is putting up barriers to those things. And I think I've talked with a lot of parents over the years, and they want to, what's the best software I can put on my kid's device to block them from doing certain things? Kids are going to find ways around any barrier that you put up. We see it at school, you'll see it at home. Putting up those barriers doesn't help them learn appropriate use, when it is appropriate to do one thing over another. Sitting down with them, having conversations, talking about what they can do or what they should and shouldn't be doing and why. It's not just the authoritative, no, you can't do this, you can't use this. It's talking with them about why it's inappropriate, why you think it's inappropriate. Have them have a response to that and listen to what their response is, why they want to be able to use that app or that, watch that video or go to that website. Have conversations with them so that they understand where you're coming from and you're also understanding where they're coming from in the world that they're living in and the pressures that they're feeling from friends and from other places. So this Norton Security, this is the guy, the general manager there, he's saying, technology can help, but it's not going to be the thing that solves your problem. You still have to be a parent. You still have to be monitoring. You still have to be modeling. You still have to do those things, right? Just installing a software and turning your head away is not going to ensure that negative things aren't going to happen.
So when Bruce and I were organizing this presentation, we looked at a couple of words that came up the most. Anyone think of the word that we've said the most today as a support for you to help your child? Conversation was one of them. Another? Model. Hey, you're a good listener. Yeah, modeling. So there are some technology tensions. So again, research-based. This came out of a study where we looked at some tensions that are centered around technology. One, you can't see what your kid's doing. That causes tension. The expectation that you're always connected, right? You check it, 70% of you check it at least once an hour. Child's perception that we're only telling them things to avoid. And both parents and child not following household tech rules. You set a rule, then you don't follow it. That causes tension. It's a misunderstanding. And then no routine of communicating or checking in. So personal devices introduce these challenges into our modern lives. So a support, and this came out of a study in 2016. Again, parent involvement, co-viewing, open communication leads to better outcomes. Another study, 2016, parents need to educate themselves, where you said you're not sure about what it is that they're using. We need to educate them ourselves about social media and the way they're using it. The positive discussions can result in less risky online behaviors. And these are each clickable. You can read each of these studies. So instead of shutting down, we try to build it up. Because there's no shutting it down at this point. So we need to let kids know that we're listening. When they come to you and talk, you need to stop what you're doing and listen. You need to be ready to take action. If they share just a little bit, Ask a couple of questions. It might lead to more. You know, my friend's having a party on Wednesday. They posted it online. Oh, instead of maybe reacting and being intrusive and say, really? I didn't say you could go. Ask a couple of questions. Oh, where did you see this posting? Is it open to everyone? Ask some questions. Listen even if it's difficult to hear. You're going to want to step in. I shouldn't say you're going to want to. Sometimes we tend to want to step in and solve their problem. They might not have a problem yet. They might just want you to listen. Let them finish their point before you respond. It's hard. We are a go, go, go society here in Hong Kong. I'm coming from New York. Go, go, go in New York. Paris, it's go, go, go. You shouldn't be go, go, go with your kids. And paraphrase. That really lets them know, one, that you're listening, and two, you're checking to see if you got it right. They share something, say, it sounds like you're saying you're not sure what to do with this message that you received. Then they'll either say yes or no. Paraphrase, it's a great strategy. You want a response so that they're going to hear you. Again, soft and strong reactions. They're coming to you for support, not so that you can be angry, get upset. They're sharing maybe their feelings. If you get angry, they're going to tune you out. You've probably experienced it. You get angry, they're out. Done. You've lost them. It's also okay to express your feelings. You don't want to argue, but it's okay to say, you know what, I think that we disagree on this because I feel this way. It's okay to say that, to acknowledge that you disagree. You want to focus on their feelings rather than your own. And again, Dr. Abrams said the same thing just the other day. Having these conversations with your kids. It's not about who's right or wrong. You're really just trying to see if you can gain something from what they're sharing with you. We know it's hard work. You're going to want to ask what your kid wants. Are they coming to you because they want advice? They have a problem? They just want you to listen? My wife now is visiting family. Craziness happening there. There's so much going on. And she's just trying to listen. She knows she can't change a lot what's going on there, but she's just listening. It's the hardest thing for us to do, especially as parents. You want to solve their problem. That might not be what they want or need. Just listen. They also learn by imitating. Bruce mentioned it earlier. They see how you deal with anger, they're going to do the same thing. Model how to deal with anger, problem solving, feelings. Don't lecture. Kids learn from their own choices. Realize that they might be testing you. They're going to tell you a small part, and there might be something bigger. So going back to that party, there might be something even bigger about that party. There might be something inappropriate happening at that party. So they've told you, hey, Peter Pan's having a party on Saturday. Oh, really? Ask a couple of questions about it. Why are they telling you about the party? Maybe there's something that they want to share or check in with you about. And just please appreciate that this is hard. We know being a parent is not easy, especially where so much is happening behind our backs. Having conversations and modeling, we feel confident, is the key to supporting your kids. So resources for support. There's a Common Sense Media Family Agreement. It's for years 7 through 9. You might see grades 6 through 8. There's a link to Common Sense Media and the Family Agreement Plan. It's just nice to have posted. You do this at the beginning of the year, so it hopefully helps avoid some conflict later. And you all follow it. It's not hard. If you ask them to follow it, it shouldn't be hard for you to follow it too. Next, there's something called From Boston's Children's Hospital, Ask the Mediatrician. Anyone familiar with this? Fantastic site. It's part of Harvard School also. Boston Children's Hospital. Ask the Mediatrician. You click on it, and you can come here and you can see, one, there's a whole bank of questions, but then two, Fortnite. Someone asked a question about, what should I know about Fortnite? Is it okay for kids to play? He delves right into it, tons of research. So there's the question from a family in Milwaukee. Thank you for your timely question and for including personal note about coming from background. It's considered both a third-person shooter game, When comparing Fortnite to other popular shooting games such as Halo, Grand Theft Auto, don't allow yourself to be misled by marketing messages that seem to say it's not graphically gory and it's not harmful. It is. He supports research for it. So Ask the Pediatrician is a fantastic place to come. And lastly, us. You've come to our first parent iSpace session. We will have more. You've probably emailed us in the past for manage back passwords, how to access things here at CIS. Reach out to us for anything at any time. We'll shortly send you a survey asking, what should our next iSpace be about? Most likely, we're going to tie it to what your kids are doing, so we'll offer something to what kids are doing in their digital citizenship lessons. But we'll also take your feedback. We know that we need to have one on Manage Back, so that's coming very shortly. We're going to have a parent iSpace session just on Manage Back, short, maybe just a half hour, but cookies and treats, as always. Please know you got this. We're here to support you. It's not easy, but you've got it. You're here today because you've got this. Not coming today, for whatever reason, if you've chosen not to come, maybe means that you feel good about it, or you're a little lost. But I'm glad that you're here, so thank you. Thank you for coming. At this time, we will gladly take questions, but we want to keep it to an hour, so if anyone did need to go, you're more than welcome to go, but if you have questions, we'll take questions. Yes, sir?
What are your comments on tracking software or monitoring software as opposed to blocking software? Things like Active Track, things like Custodio.
Yep.
It doesn't block, but it tracks what they're doing.
Correct. I think that's okay after the conversation. Have a conversation with your child. What are you doing online? Have the conversation. Hey, I'm going to install this on your phone. I wouldn't do it in a sneaky way. I do know a parent who did, came to us, said, I want it installed on my kid's phone. Are you going to tell your child? Nope, not telling my child. We don't advise that. Right? You want to be a partner with them. So I like software like that. I like it on my phone and iPad. I like seeing what I'm spending my time on. I game probably 20 minutes a day. I'm on the MTR quite a bit, so I do game for a little bit. I like to keep track of it, but otherwise, I wouldn't do anything.
That's it. Talk with them about why you're installing it, why you want to use it, and then how you're going to use it. Like once a week, we'll check in together and take a look at what your activity was on the device.
And show them yours too.
Yeah.
And recently, there's a development where Apple has just released Catalina yesterday. It has screen time on it now on the PC as well as now everywhere.
Yeah.
But the only problem is it only works on it doesn't support 32-bit apps anymore. So will you advise all our children to upgrade to Catalina?
No, we haven't yet. We know it just came out yesterday, but I thought we were looking at it yesterday in our meeting and thinking, not yet.
We definitely don't recommend upgrading to what they call .0 releases. So it's just being released. Never install those because it's really a beta test. You know, then they find out where all the bugs are, and then they start updating and fixing all those bugs. Usually wait at least a couple of months before you start updating to the latest operating systems. Yeah.
There were some circumstances last year that the school had to take up children's phone. So we talk about the privacy issues now. So what's the school stance now?
Regarding looking at students' phones?
Yes.
If there is evidence of bullying or malicious intent or inappropriate use, it's part of our RUP, so our responsible use policy, that the school, if it's warranted, can ask a child to open up their phone and we can look just for that piece of evidence that we're looking for. Yeah, the school has that right. It's part of our RUP, and what's nice, the RUP, the responsible use policy, is being looked at currently by the student council, We've shared it with all of year 9s yesterday, so I know your child was part of that yesterday. We looked at the RUP being feedback from students. We're opening it up to a parent group and teachers. So every year we revisit the RUP. Good questions. Yes, ma'am?
So what is the best, I mean, this is a question for other parents. My kid is year 8. What is the best way to set up screen time? I mean, on top, of course we agree to it, but then I feel like I need to set up screen time. But what's the most reasonable way of setting up the screen time? Like say, after school hour, dinner time, 7 to 10, I'm blocking, or 7 to 9, I'm blocking. Is it reasonable?
And we're talking non-homework screen time.
Right.
Non-communicating maybe with grandmother and wherever.
Yeah.
Gosh, I'm in bed by 9. And I'm off tech an hour before I'm in bed. So I hope our children are also getting enough sleep each night. So I would not have anything till 10, till 9. That hour before sleep, it's important to have no screen time. It affects your sleep, so that first hour of sleep you're gonna have is not restful sleep.
It's really, I mean, you know your kids well enough that, and having conversations with them, what's going to be appropriate for them at their age. And as that age increases, how you need to adjust some of that. But I think it's sitting down and having a conversation with them, asking them, what do they think is appropriate? When do they think they should be able to have some free screen time? Should it happen before homework, after homework? Get their ideas, work on a solution together, so that way they feel like they have some input in it, and you hear why behind some of their reasoning, and then come to an agreement together and see how that works. But if you do that and you find it creates some tension, then you have to revisit that again and say, okay, we sat down and made these agreements together. You're not following your end of the bargain. Why is that becoming a problem? And talk about those things.
Yeah, I can't think of anything better than a negotiated agreement. And that's where that family agreement comes into play. This family agreement, you could set up how much time you're going to have each day, and you negotiate it. Does it need to be revisited? Perhaps. But if it's, and I used to work at Morgan Stanley for years, and I tell investors when they panicked, right? If we made a good investment in something, because we knew for 5 years we were going to own this stock, we wanted it for 5 years, but there was a bad period where it went down for a month or two, don't stress. We have this 5-year plan. We know that there are going to be ups and downs. So if it's a good plan one day, it should be a good plan the next day. I would try to stick to any plan that you come up with, but it's okay to revisit too, as long as it's a joint.
And you all have each other. I mean, a lot of you came in together and talking with each other. Use each other as resources too. You guys have conversations about what your kids are doing and what apps they're doing and how you're dealing with certain situations. You're good resources for each other as well as us. We need to work together as a team to help our kids through this what can be sometimes difficult times. I mean, they're trying to find themselves. A lot of the digital stuff is new to them, it's new to us. We all have to work together and find our way through this path. Any other questions, comments? Yeah.
I set up a parent control on my son's laptop following the school's requirements step by step. So according to that, the laptop is supposed to be shut down at 8 o'clock unless I give an extension. But I just found it very often doesn't work consistently. I don't know, I don't understand. I went back to the setup, it looks fine. Sometimes at 8 o'clock he used to come to me asking for extension. For example, last night he came to me because the warning says you have like 5 minutes. So I gave 30 minutes, but at 8:45, around 9, it's still on the computer. The computer is still working. Why can't
I know we could, if you send your child, we could check it out for you. Because we have a tech supporting it, but I don't know, it should be right. If your times are set up accurately, sometimes it happens AM, PM, just check that you kept it to PM.
I'm pretty sure it's
Yeah, I mean, if it's working sometimes, it's,
I have to do it about 5 times.
Oh.
What works, and then I realize you have to restart the computer sometimes.
For the settings to take place.
Yeah. And very often he doesn't even need to come to me at 8 o'clock. The computer just keeps working.
Yeah, and that's Apple.
Okay, we'll check into it as well and see if there's, there's online resources that we can see if there's bugs that other people are experiencing in similar situations, and we can talk with the tech support.
Because that's an Apple
Just
thing.
send us an email and then we'll check into it and get back to you.
So you can check on.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna write it down. Yeah,
Yep.
The email is secondary to
It's this site. You can just click on this, and so when you come here, it brings you right to this website where if you look, so this you might be familiar with, all students year 7 and new students to our school always go through this, but then there's iSpace sessions. And here's the exact same presentation that we went through today. So
Or email, SecICT.
oh, yeah, sorry, the email, yes.
SecICT.
Yep. I'll put that here. Sorry, I'm gonna put it in right now. I apologize. I'll put in our email address. No, it's not, good question. Can I say it'll be on Moongate by the end of today? I feel confident that it is, but I don't know if it's clear, so it'll be on Moongate today. And it'll be called the Secondary Ed Tech site.
And we'll send out an email to all the people that were here today with the link to the presentation as well. But also certainly check out our website. There's a lot of information there as well. Okay.
Can I ask, could this have been more helpful?
Yeah.
Is there something we could have done better that we missed?
It's not a funny video, but it's
Oh, the student video?
yeah, we can show that.
It should work.
No, just kidding.
Oh. Yeah.
I think, I'm a banker and I need to be constantly on the phone, so my child always says that you spend more time, therefore I am time. I think it's also when you communicate with the kids, I think sometimes they can't differentiate the difference between parent role and their role. And I think it's important to communicate to them that we're the adult, and you're the twin role. And how can the school deliver that message? Because every time I talk to her, she thinks I'm lecturing. But I think it's also important from the school perspective to educate them. Like the way you talk to us, they have their thinking, and they need to understand the parent perspective as well. So I just wonder, if in your presentation, you can also give a little bit of perspective to them, like.
Well, we talk. I mean, they question us all the time.
Okay.
They're constantly questioning teachers and about similar type of things. Like, why do you get to do stuff that we don't get to do? And we do talk about that. Well, there's things that we're allowed to do as adults that you're not allowed to do as children, and talk about the reasons why. And I'm sure it's the same thing that you're doing at home. Why you're on the phone all the time. It's part of your job, and you need to do that. You're as a student or as a child. That's not something that you need to do. And that kids are just going to question, that age group is just going to constantly question every single thing that happens. Right? You just have to be prepared for that and take a deep breath and keep repeating or keep answering those questions. And they'll eventually get through that stage of constantly questioning authority and someone's telling them that they can and can't do things. But it just takes patience. I know it's frustrating. I mean, as a year 9 advisor, the kids, why do we have to do this? Blah, 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 blah. That's not fair. This is, well, okay, let's talk about that. If you don't think it's fair, come up with some valid reasons of why you think it's not fair and what would be a solution to that, and then present it to people that can make changes of those decisions. So we fight some of those same battles in school as well. And we know it's not easy. And like we said in the presentation, it's not easy. it's gonna be hard to get through these tween and teen years.
We even tell teachers, 'cause they say, well, why are parents on their phone when I'm talking? But you might have another child that you just got an important message from their school, or you got an important message about your mom who you're taking care of. Whatever. You have important things going on that might interrupt what's, so, we're even telling teachers that, not just the students, like, so when, I never call out a parent when you're on your phone, I get it, it happens. We just trust that you're not checking Facebook or but yeah, thank you for that. So just know I've been writing down notes from the beginning from now. Appreciate that.
And please give us feedback. I know some might be reluctant to give feedback in a public forum, but any positive, negative, constructive criticism, any ideas of what, we're here to support you. So what are the things that you want these sessions to be about? Right? Well, we have some ideas of things we want to do, but we want to hear from you guys as well.
So I have an older secondary child.
Not new, but a lot more teachers are using it.
The reason I'm asking is that when my older one, she now, so I can see the benefits of it. The problem I have is that it sends a lot of emails to the child, right? So they're
It could.
So maybe people know what they want to check their phone or their computer. So I don't know what kind of emails or something, but I think some of them are just, oh, you're trying to do it, or you have this homework that's due. So it sends a lot of emails.
So that's, yes, it's going to notify them of when there's a new assignment or something like that, but then you need to think about notifications. So if their phones are dinging because they've got an email, so then we need to start looking at their phone and the notification settings on their phone. They don't need to have a ding or a vibrate or everything every time they get an email, because that's distracting. I don't have my own phone set that way because that's distracting to me with what I'm doing. So that's a thing to maybe sit down and say, all right, your phone's making all this noise in the morning, because generally it's maybe either the teacher has set it for the assignment to be posted that day. It's like they may post it a couple days ago, but it's not actually going to get posted for the kids to see it until a certain day, and it probably happens at a certain time. So then that's why they're getting an email, and that's why their phone's ringing, because their phone is set to ring whenever there's a new email.
So my point is that I do understand that it might be notification. First of all, I wonder if there was, because I'm not on Google Classroom.
Yep.
I wondered if there was a way to fix the notifications there, because the reason it doesn't work if I say don't have a ding on your phone or your computer is because actually, I don't know if you know this, but the teachers tend to send a lot of emails, like not the automatic ones. So they'll say, oh, please know we're meeting at Bruce tomorrow morning first period, right? So then they need to see that, because then if they don't log on, you know what I mean? So if it's on their phone, otherwise they get on the computer, and then at that time, it's not, it's not, you know what I mean? So I had this problem where I said, just don't have a date. This is really annoying, right? Mr. So-and-so added an assignment, Mr. So-and-so added an assignment, Ms. So-and-so. But then they were missing out on, oh, please bring your business suit today instead of we're not running in the field, those kind of things, right? So, and that's another problem I have, because they also get a lot of those emails, like 6 in the morning or 9 something p.m., right? So it's not like one day, like it's quite often. So I understand why the teachers maybe feel that they forgot to send something and it's important, but like they were supposed to have their teacher contact that time, right, for the school, so.
Yeah. I wonder if just setting up a routine of checking it, for what I do personally, I stop checking after 6 o'clock p.m. And then I check it in the morning once I get here at 7, and then I start my day. So if a child's doing the same thing, stop at a certain time at night. I can't imagine if they're checking at night at 6 and then again in the morning at 7, that they might miss anything.
The teachers know that they can't expect kids to check their messages constantly as well. I mean, that's definitely something we are.
Useful information sometimes at night.
But I'm writing that down to Google Classroom notifications, and I put too much. And maybe set limits like between these hours. Because they can set, and they might not know that they could set up assignments to be released at a certain time. Even though they might be working at 9 o'clock at night, it doesn't need to be released until the next day at 7:55 when the class might start or something. So that's for us.
That's something we should be doing at school,
Yeah.
and it does have a lot of, I just wondered if there was a way for my child to turn it off or switch it down.
On their phone, yes, and then
Yeah,
probably.
yes, but I'm actually that, I didn't want to do that because it was not.
Yeah. I would just think if they shut it off on their phone and then just routinely check it morning before I get to school, or once I get to school, 7:30, they're here, a lot of them, 7:40, check it then.
But then they missed out, they have to bring their PPE thing or something.
Well, the teacher shouldn't be expecting students to be.
I would think at that point, parent, I would write, hey, my child did not come prepared because you sent it too late. Can you please notify them a little bit earlier?
So the other, question I had was on Google Docs, so I know that you use a lot of Google Docs.
Yes.
So I'm just wondering what the solicitation is on, like, a child not using Google Docs sometimes. I had an issue with my old child, like, when I said, that's enough, I had you're on the computer off, shut down the Wi-Fi, right? Then I have this number too on Google Docs, right? So then I said, well, I don't go on Word, right? They're like, what's Word, right? So anyway, so I got them on my stupid little PC, get the Word on, and then, I made her do her assignment. So anyway, then what happened was then when they put the assignment on Google Docs, then the teacher, there was a big issue with the teacher saying that they hadn't done it properly, got monitored on Google Docs. And all of a sudden there's this big text appearing. Edited yourself. I don't know, you know what I mean? It was just like, I mean, nothing eventually happened, but it just was an extra bunch of stuff happening that was not necessary, I thought.
Are you familiar with Google? So all of Google Docs, Sheets, any of those apps can be utilized offline.
I didn't.
So when there is no Wi-Fi, they can still use it.
Okay.
And then once they connect to Wi-Fi, it'll just show up.
Okay.
So there is an offline, and for each of them, you can find it and access it. So if I can first, yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's just in Docs, and you can make available offline. And then you can shut off Wi-Fi. So here it is. I don't want to shut off Wi-Fi because I might not. Oh, I might not be connected to this anymore. But I can shut off Wi-Fi. Let's see if I turn off Wi-Fi. And I can still type.
And then once they're back on Wi-Fi, it'll automatically sync to Google Docs, and the teachers would have the same access to it.
Yep.
That was the thing, it's hard to just cut the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, so now I can start typing and editing as I wanted to if I were connected. So sorry, it did show. Turning off Wi-Fi is frozen the screen, yeah. But there is offline for Sheets, for Docs, for slides, all of them. Yeah, so hopefully that helps where they can still do it. But our school's position is that they need to, especially if they're going to use Turnitin in the upper grades, use Google Docs. And then save as PDF. We're here if anyone wants to stay longer, but if you want to go, grab some cookies anyway.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of goodies on the way.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Yes, thank you.